Welcome to today's podcast. Today we have Erika Wasserman on the show. Welcome, Erika.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and explore some great topics with you today.
Excellent. And well, you have a very interesting career. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about what you do and who you help?
Sure. So I'm a financial therapist. And normally at this point, the person I'm speaking to kind of gives me that puppy dog look like, what? What did you just say?
Mhm.
It's a financial therapist. And what I do is I'm a person that you come to work on your relationship with money. How do you feel about it? How does it make you feel? Is it impacting your health, your sleeping, chest pains, stomach aches, conflicts with family members, or even with yourself? And we're raised in a society, all societies, I should say, but there's a recent study that 81% of people out of 2000 said they were taught not to talk about money, but they didn't know why.
Mm.
So here we have something that impacts us every day, from buying a cup of coffee to investing in a home or deciding where to build your business. But it's something we're not supposed to talk about. Well, heck, how are you supposed to get better at it if you can't talk about it? And
And
you can't
how do
share
we,
and learn from one another.
and how do we know what we don't know if we don't talk about it?
Right. And the wellness wheel, we have nutrition, you have exercise, you have spirituality, with professions, right? All these areas, we have people that we go to talk to listen to mentorship, to take classes in. Money? Nope. You don't get it in school, and at home, it's a toss up of what you're going to get.
It depends
Some,
on how you grew up. If your parents were wealthy, you will have different kind of education or memories or beliefs around money as opposed to somebody who grew up in a family that maybe wasn't wealthy.
it is, and I ask my clients often is describe how you grew up, and if I'll challenge you or invite you to do this,
Mhm.
describe how you grew up without using numbers or a class.
Um, I also know, before I answer that as a bit of a caveat, I know how our memory isn't always accurate as well. And we kind of remember things to be worse than what they are, or better than what they are. But for me, growing up, for the most part, like I didn't really think about money. I didn't hear my parents. I knew, oh, see, I just used the word money. I was supposed to not do that, right? So I guess, I was generally a pretty happy kid. I remember that. But yeah, it's hard because we think of then lifestyle. Did we have all the things we wanted? Did we do the things that we wanted to do? Yeah, it's a tough way to describe it without using certain words.
Yeah, I'll use a client was sharing with me. We're going over spending, and her grocery bill was really high. And we started digging into it a little bit more. And for her, having a fridge full of food meant that she was wealthy, meant that she had money. Because growing up, the refrigerator was oftentimes empty. And so for her, the fact that she can go to the grocery store and buy that extra fancy mayonnaise, or, have some chicken in the refrigerator, for her, that was a sign of wealth. Her partner, it wasn't. So he didn't understand why they spent so much on groceries, which was then a source of conflict. But once we understood why that was so important to her, it made more sense for both of them.
Right, right. And it is interesting too, because how we grow up, we bring those things into our relationships, and we kind of always assume that we're right, we're normal, everyone's like us. And then when we're with someone who's not, or meet someone who's not, sometimes we don't think about why they are that way, and also why we are. Like, why do I think the way I think, believe what I believe, and have the opinions that I have?
Because nobody's challenged you on it, or you've talked openly about it. And when you do, all of a sudden you realize, things could be done differently, or your experiences weren't the same as mine. And in fact, oftentimes people kept coming to me saying, I don't even know how to start these conversations. I don't know how to start the conversation with my partner, either romantic partner or business partner. So I actually created a deck of cards and say, let's talk about finances, baby.
Oh,
And it's a deck of 50 cards, and it's questions and prompts, and to get those conversations started, kind of like the one, great example is the one I asked you is, describe your economic class growing up. And all of a sudden you're having organic conversations to understand your partner better. And again, this could be romantic or business, because your business decisions, as we're talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, are made the same way. And when you're working for yourself or with a small group of people, it's hard, right? And you kind of just do what you know what to do, but maybe your habits aren't helping you. Maybe they're holding you back or hindering you with your potential wealth. And that's an area of my business that I love working with, is helping entrepreneurs free themselves to really get into the growth mindset, not just in their business, but with their financials as well.
right. And it's very important, especially for, obviously for married couples. But I think a lot of business partners as well, because what's your goal for the business, right? Like what is a successful business? Is it making X number of dollars? How are you going to do that? Or is it, maybe it's not the dollar amount, but globalization, and what is that? So having that communication about money, the plans to make it, how it's going to be spent. How are you going to invest it, or how much is it a percentage you're spending on advertising, or where, how are you going to grow that, and what are you going to do with it? And that's very important, because if two people have very different opinions or opposite thoughts about the money and how it should be spent, then you're going to run into problems.
Right. You end up not doing anything, or resentment and tension builds. So a great example for this is marketing spend. So if one partner wants to spend $100 a month and one wants to spend $10,000 a month, right? How do you communicate and compromise? And we have not had a lot of practice doing that. And that's going to be a source of conflict. And so being a financial therapist, that's where I get to come in and help, like a pop the pin, right? The pin that pops the balloon, and kind of deflate that and come to understanding between people, because your $100 and their $1,000 is based on their experiences. So we talked about background. The other part of our money belief is experiences. So if I did great just with a $100 ad in the local newspaper, right? Versus somebody who's like, no, we need to do social media and we can do a campaign. And this is how I got my return on my past business. It's all based on experience. It's not necessarily based on facts that are in front of you, because our emotions come into play.
Right, exactly. And we have our beliefs from our experience.
So there's three ways. We touched on two. One was background.
Yeah.
How we're raised, what was talked about, our culture that we were in. The other one was experiences. And the third is religion.
Oh, I wouldn't have thought that. That surprises me.
Religion, depending on how influential it is in your life, right, is there's some messaging that money is greed. Money doesn't buy happiness. Ultimately, the man makes the decisions. And so you give a certain percent back to charity. So that plays a role also in your money beliefs. And once we kind of have those three tied up, that's it. We stop growing in this area. And again, when I look at the wellness wheel with every other aspect of our businesses and our personal life, we work and continue to grow on these things. With our money, we tend to stop growing, and it definitely impacts, like I said, our health and our wealth, because we get tied up within ourselves on some of the blocks that we're creating, but don't have a release of somebody to talk to. So that's probably the number one thing that I would encourage the listeners today is find somebody to talk to. Find a mentor, find an accountability partner. It could be your romantic partner, or it could be somebody else. But find somebody. And I jokingly, I say I have a board of directors. I have a committee of people that have different skill sets and that I go to for different things. So build that. I know, Sally, you're a great resource as well for everybody, but build that team around you, because you're an athlete. They have a huge team of people. Absolutely. And if you're not investing in yourself with the right board of directors, and they can be friends, mentors, people at the local, chamber of commerce, whatever it is, but surround yourself with people that you can actually be open and honest and brainstorm some ideas with, because growth is needed to grow a business and to grow ourselves.
Absolutely. And we have to start having those conversations because that's how we learn and that's how we grow. And if we look at any large successful company in the world, they didn't do it by themselves. And just as you said with athletes, they don't become professional athletes because they did it all themselves. They have coaches, they have consultants, they've got people working with them and finding people who specialize in certain things. Just like I can go to the gym, and I do. I go to the gym and I work out, and sometimes I have some good workouts. But when I have a personal trainer, oh my gosh, my workouts are so much better. I get into shape so much faster because it's doing things differently. It's pushing to do more sometimes, or trying new and different things. And so it is really important to have people who specialize in certain areas of our lives to help us reach whatever goals it is that we want to reach. And then that comes down to, what is your goal? I think is very important too, because people are like, I want to be happy, or I want to be rich, or I want to be the best one, successful. Well, what is your definition of being successful? Because everybody's definition is a little bit different, especially when we have like the media playing into it, which I really dislike. You have to have $1 million homes and lots of cars that are worth lots of money and making it so much. But that's truly, in my opinion, that's not the definition of success, because we've seen, famous people, athletes, actors, actresses, people who are having multi-million-dollar companies, and they're addicted to drugs, alcohol, they OD, they commit suicide. So they weren't happy. They had what the kind of quote life that everybody should strive for, and that brings happiness, but we really realize it doesn't. And I think one of the things that we need to do is also redefine what is success. And it has to include happiness, and everybody's happiness is different.
So I use the analogy here when I'm talking about financial goal and your success is, and I'll ask you, let's do this. I love a good little interaction. So how many emails are in your inbox right now?
Way too many. Like,
give me a number.
Probably, I probably average 100 emails a day.
Okay. So at the end of the night, when you close your computer, you're at 123 or 87. Somewhere around there.
Probably, I spend too much time on them, but yeah, I would say I probably get them down to about 50.
So you can close your computer at the end of the day with 50 and feel good.
And yeah, I feel okay. Like, I know that there's stuff that I still need to do, because I always just say, like, my work is never done. There's always things that I need to do, but I also know that there's a point where I have to just close it and be like, that's it for today, because there's other things in life than work and responding to emails.
Okay. So we're going to say 50 is your number.
Okay.
Mine, I recently rechanged my emailing formatting and how I respond. So I'm at 6.
Okay.
Because I have action folders, response folders. I've got, because it used to be larger. My mom, on the other hand, her email has 13,576, and she sleeps perfectly fine at night, right? I mean, it's out of control. I just look at the number, and again, my heart starts beating. It's the same with success and our financial goals. Everybody's number is going to be different, and it's going to feel and look different. So, like, look at your email account. I invite you right now. Like, if you're listening to the podcast, look at your email account. How does that make you feel at the end of the day? Like, the same way you have a number that you're happy with, or a range that you're good with, apply that to your finances as well. Where are you going to take a deep breath and be like, I'm good. I'm still working, but I'm good where I am today. And I have a goal set out for me that's obtainable. So that is some advice to take away for today.
That's a good one too. And I also, though, I know that I prioritize my emails. So even though I have a lot, and some of them, honestly, of course, we all get like newsletters that we sign up for, and I put them in a folder, or I just go through and I'm just like, delete, don't have time to read it today. Sometimes I go through and I think maybe I should unsubscribe because I haven't actually read that newsletter in a very long time. And that I learned a while ago, because part of it is like, it's just more that's in there. And if we're not reading them, like, to me, I feel it's two things. It's taking up time that even if I have to delete every day or every week, whatever, I'm still going through deleting a number of things. And why keep doing that? That's taking time away. That number, when I see as soon as I open how many, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so many. And if I can just eliminate that, then it's a good thing. And I know some people, they say, well, I like the person, I want to keep as a subscriber, because it kind of helps them with their numbers. But I also say, but also as a business owner, for us, like, we also pay for our subscribers, right? We have an email list, but every, if we have 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 emails that go out per month, that's a cost. And the more you have, there is an increased cost. And so for me, if I know that I'm not reading it, I'm not buying anything from them, I'm really not, like, I'm not a valuable customer or client for them. And so I'm really not doing them any favors by staying on an email list that I'm not even reading the email.
And if you're not opening it, you're impacting their open rate as well.
Yeah, so I'm really not helping them. So it's all, and because my thought, to me, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. I would rather have for myself a smaller list of people that are opening, they're reading, they're getting value, instead of saying, oh, I have so many subscribers, but half of them don't even open the email. There's no point, it's quality over quantity.
And I'll echo that, is also clean out your inbox for stores. If you like to impulsively shop and, you see a sale come in from your favorite store, and all of a sudden, an hour later, a productivity time is now spent, searching and buying things you didn't even know you needed, but now you have to have. Go ahead and delete those, unsubscribe. And when they ask you to subscribe, even for the 10% off, either take the 10% off and then unsubscribe to the next email, or clean out those emails, because they are taking time. Like you said, to delete it, and or distraction and pulling your money someplace else as well. So that's another little tip.
And it's also too, on that as well, if you're not thinking about it, you probably don't need it. Like, and I have a rule for me for spending money, and partially because I do travel quite a bit as well. And that's how when I started it was, if I buy something new, I have to get rid of something. So, and it started because I was traveling a lot, and I had my suitcase, and so only a certain amount of weight to a certain amount of space. And so I really stopped shopping, because I thought, well, if I buy a new dress, I have to get rid of a dress. And that point was because space and weight for my suitcase. And I just continued that. I just thought, if I buy something new, I need to get rid of something, because what do we really need? And knowing the difference between need and want is very important too. Like, what do we need versus what do we want? And if we need it, then yes, check it out, find, if there's sales on and things like that. If you need to have it right now, I mean, there's certain things that we need immediately, like if I don't know, your hot water tank goes, like, that's something that's important. But there's a lot of things that I also think that we spend on that we don't need, and we don't even know if we really want it. And I'm to blame. I've done this before. I'm like, oh, it's on sale, I'm saving money.
Right. Or you're emotionally spending, right? Like, I was just sharing, I was in Barcelona with my kids. They were driving me crazy. I need to go for a walk. And all of a sudden I ended up at a vintage shop, and I picked up a couple of cute dresses. I didn't need any of it. I walked out of the store, but I ended up with 3 things in my bag, because at the time it was an emotional spend. And so those are going to happen. Acknowledge that, but move out some of the obstacles if you can. And another fun tip is, so let's say we were just talking about online shopping, and you put everything in the cart, you wait a minute, and it says it's 150 euro. And all of a sudden you decide, I'm not going to do it. Take that 150 euro you would have spent and move it into what I call a sunshine fund. And it's the opposite of a rainy day fund. These are things that you can do for yourself, like an extra adventure if you're traveling, or money towards a wedding you have coming up, or a friend's bachelorette or hen party. And that $150 or pounds that you were just going to spend on aimless clothes, move that into your sunshine fund, so that way you get to do it with something that really has purpose and passion for you.
I love that. That is such a great idea, because there's been many times that I don't do a lot of online shopping, but I'll start and I'll look and I'll put things into the cart, and then I see the total, and then I think, oh, that's, more than what I thought, because I end up picking more things. And then I think, do I really need that? And 99% of the time, I don't end up buying it because then I like to think about things. And even I will spend more money knowing that like something will say, oh, it's on sale, you only have a certain amount of time, or you buy now, you save so much money. I will wait because I would rather spend more later knowing that it's something that I really did want. Because most times if I like don't buy I wait and leave the shopping cart, I don't go back to buy like 99% of the time. So that 1% time when I do, I'm okay with spending a little
Right.
bit more because I know I've saved so much on all those other times where I decided I really didn't need that. And for me, lots of it is more learning stuff, that course that, say it's a marketing course or this or that, or I love learning. And so I'm constantly buying, and I've really been this year, I'm like, okay, no more courses, no more. I mean, I'm sure I still will, but I spend a lot on that. So I'm really starting to be, I don't need, because in part two, I love to learn, but if I'm not implementing, what does it matter?
Right. So 2 things on this. One is that's amazing you have so much self-control. Not all of us have that. And it's a skill that you work out every day. And like you said, you had to do it because of your traveling circumstances. So it was implemented and it stuck. And it's something that takes practice. So again, I invite you to practice, wait the 24 hours, see if you need it, ask yourself the questions because it's going to take practice. So that's really important. And back to spending on education, that's something you enjoy and that's something that brings you joy. Set aside money in your budget for it. And I hate the word budget. When I work with clients, I call them yes plans. What do you want to say yes to in life? And every month, what do you need to achieve that yes? So for you, if you want to say yes to education courses throughout the year and it's going to cost $10,000, just plan for it. So when you do it with joy versus with guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And you're selective because you have a certain amount of funds to spend on it.
Yeah, and that's where I've changed my focus. Like I still spend the majority of my money for me personally is educational things and experiences, traveling, trying new things. I spent years as a travel writer. I still love to travel. But I love doing those things. So for me, for example, I'm not a huge clothing shopper, as we've talked a little bit about that. So I would look at the price of something and say, oh, am I really going to spend, say, $200 on a pair of jeans? Because then I think with living in Europe, flying is extremely cheap compared to like North America. I don't even know if you can fly anywhere for $200 in North America, maybe if you got a good seat sale. But in Europe, I could probably get like 5 return flights, or depending upon where I'm going, for $200. And so I think like I could go somewhere, or like the flight for 5 places, or a pair of jeans, or just do like a weekend trip because the flight is very cheap, and to spend 1 or 2 nights in a hotel, or a pair of jeans. And so that's how I think. And that's what works for me. It may not work for everybody.
I was just going to say that you have a lot of control. A lot of people that I see want it all, and they want it all right now. So I want to grow my business. I want to travel the world. I want to spend on experiences. I want to jump out of the airplane. I want to wear the new Louis Vuitton purse for my Instagram feed. And I want it all now.
But we can't have it all now. Unless you're mega rich and very few of us can have it all now.
Right. But that's hard to understand when you're going through the process.
Absolutely.
And life's a journey, right? And as you go through it, there are going to be times where you get to travel the world for $200, right? And then there's going to be times where you get to buy the Louis Vuitton purse if that's important to you. And there's going to be times where, everything has a time and a place. Right. And you already have that set up, it sounds like, where your values and how to shift from one focus to the other with your finances. Again, it's a skill, and it's something that takes practice.
Absolutely.
Because what you do now when you're younger impacts you later. Mm-hmm. So by getting into credit card debt now in your 20s, it will stay with you, and the interest that you pay and the burden and the literally, like my full shoulder feels it, right? The stress that comes with it isn't worth it. But making some small shifts in behavior to get out of debt or to not ever get into debt by making those choices between jeans or a trip, right? It sounds small, but they add up over time. So all of these small things will help you reach your goals without having to do these drastic things. I look at it as a diet. You have diet and lifestyle.
Right.
You go on a crash course diet, I'm never eating carb again. Well, all of a sudden you find yourself in Paris, and let me tell you, you're gonna have a croissant. Right? Like, you're gonna be in Italy and you're gonna have a bite of pasta. Like, you can't say these things. And the same with, so a lifestyle is more, I'm gonna eat healthier, I'm gonna reduce carbs, I'm gonna do all of these things. The same is between a budget and a yes plan. So for me, a budget's very constricting. Even that word, most people get the hairs on the back of their head to stand up. A yes plan is, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can go on a trip to Europe, or yes, we can build a business. Yes, we can buy a home. Well, build your plan to match that, because it's going to make those decisions, like at the checkout we were just talking about online, a lot easier to say, nope, that's going into my yes plan. That's going to my business. That's going to my next plane trip. Heck, print out a picture of where you're going or what you're saying yes to. Put it as a screensaver on your phone, because a lot of us are visual. I'm visual. So if I see it every day, well, heck, it's going to be a lot easier to say yes and no, make those decisions that you've tuned in and honed in on very well. But a lot of us are still learning. So use the tools that you have around you. Pictures are great. Challenges are great. Communicate it to others what you're doing. So therefore, when your friends ask you to go out or to spend money, they know what you're saving for and are a little bit more sensitive.
Right. And you're right. Like, it takes time. I didn't just all of a sudden, one day wake up and have a budget, or just like, I'm not doing that. It started because of certain things that were happening and things throughout my life. And as we're in different phases and stages of life as well, things are different. Like, I'm single. My daughter is an adult now. So I've bypassed through those years of school and kids and things like that. So I think it's important to think too, like, some people I talk to, they're like, oh, I wished I could travel as much as you do, or have your lifestyle. And I said, well, just wait. Like, you could, but you're at a stage right now. Your children are a certain age, just wait till they're older. Or it depends on where you're at. If you're just starting your business, you're going to have to put in a lot more hours and a lot more work. But in time, as it grows and you're able to hire people, you can focus on doing just the things that you enjoy doing within the business, and it grows. It's kind of like that old saying that everybody knows, but nobody really wants to listen and really pay attention to it, is Rome wasn't built in a day. And Rome is amazing. I love Rome. It's one of my favorite cities. Yes, it wasn't built in a day. It took time, and we have to kind of know where we want to go. And then I love that you said that, having that yes plan. So here's my ultimate yes goal. What things do I need to do to get there? So
Yeah.
it's very interesting what you do and how you help people with how they feel about money. How did you get started into this career?
That's a great question. Like everybody's journey in life, mine was not a straight one. I grew up, we talked about background. So I grew up in a household of my dad and I bonded over math. Like, I was good at math, and I got a degree in finance from the University of Florida, and his best friend was an accountant. And so for me, I liked hanging with the guys when I was little. And in fact, we started trading stocks probably when I was like 12 years old. And because I had interest in it, my sister wasn't interested and my mom wasn't interested. And as the years went on, I got a degree in finance. I went to work for IBM and spent 10 years in corporate America, living up to the term I've been moved. So I did 9 moves in 12 years.
Wow.
Of which 3 of that was in Asia. So I did 2 years in Tokyo and a year in Shanghai. And I absolutely loved my experience. And that was a way, it's funny, as we're talking with all these travelers, after I graduated college, I went on a gap summer, because in America, you don't go on a gap year.
Right.
And I came home and I was like, I'm going to go travel the world. I don't need corporate America. And I was like, I just put you through university. Like, you have a job, go. And so my life of travel looks different than what I thought it would be at 22. So I was able to go live overseas and live in Asia and travel to these amazing places that, had I taken that gap year, I wouldn't have probably have seen. So sometimes you have to be patient with your dreams. They do show up in different ways. And then I was married and started having children. So I had 3 kids in 3 years, moved back to the States, and in the 4th year got divorced. And so I had 3 little babies, and I realized corporate America wasn't for me, and raising the family that I wanted. And so I started working with entrepreneurs, growing brands in the organic food space, because that was the world that I was in. In fact, when I was in China, a woman in the UK cracked open organic baby food in the pouches. And if you've seen them now, those hadn't been to the US yet. And so I was importing them. And when I got to the US, I reached out to the company and I said, I just left IBM and I'm looking, if you need help. And that was it. I got hired at a Dunkin' Donuts in the Lower East Side of New York, to say, great, come help, market and build this brand in the US. So I did 10 years of that and moved back home to be close to my family. And when I did that, my dad passed away very suddenly of pancreatic cancer. And I had known where the binder was of all the financial documents. And because we've been talking about those for the past 20 plus years, my mom knew the binder, but she didn't know the whys behind. She didn't know how much money that my dad had left for her. She didn't know how to pay bills because that wasn't her role in the marriage. And so I stepped into that role, and along the same time, I found financial therapy. And that for me was a big aha moment where I'm like, this is my calling, because I've helped people along my journey. I've been married, I've been divorced, I've been an expat, I've moved, I've lost a parent, I've had to take on being a single mom. And finances, I've always been in control of. And most of the peers around me haven't been, because it hasn't a skill that they've talked about openly or that they felt confident in. So for me, financial therapy has been this like ray of sunshine that has come in to really be my calling of like how I can help people. And I started my business in 2019. The pandemic hit, and I have a virtual practice that's globally around the world. I work with corporations, I work with employee wellness, I work with individuals and couples, and partners of all sorts, business partners, romantic partners, etc. So it's great.
Well, that's fantastic. So where can people find you? What would be the best way to connect with you? And maybe also how people can get those cards that you mentioned earlier, because I think those are fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Best way to reach me is on my website, which is yourfinancialtherapist.com, YOURFINANI. Hold on, I can't spell financial.
Well, no, I'll put the link in there. There'll be a link in the show notes.
Okay, please. Okay, put the link in.
Yeah.
So yourfinancialtherapist.com, go under shop, and you can buy the cards. You can also schedule a session if you are interested. There's a free quiz as well that's on my website to help you understand maybe some of there's 4 financial behaviors that are showing up where you align with them. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook at Your Financial Therapist.
Excellent. Well, that's great. And it was really nice talking with you today. And I'm sure the listeners got a lot of valuable information, and they know where to find you to connect with you. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure chatting.